All the action packed in 180 minutes. Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m.
Time is 8:14. You're on Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms. And we move to our final big story of the day, looking at how much leave is costing us in the public service, sick leave particularly, and whether or not there are some abuses in the space of sick leave that we should be dealing with. We have two guests with us this morning, Anele Gxoyiya, the commissioner at the Public Service Commission, and Claude Naicker, a representative of the Public Service Association. Thank you so much for joining us, both Anele and Claude. Anele, I'll start with you. Paint us a picture of what some of the challenges are in terms of sick leave within the public service. We're seeing here that the cost of sick leave in 2021 and 2022 were quite high. We're talking here about amounts as high as 11 billion. What's the particular problem that needs to be addressed?
Problem with the Public Service Commission is that we want the public service to have the employee wellness programs that speak to the challenges that the workers in the public service have. Because some of this leave is, especially those long leaves, you would find out that they are stress-related. Gotcha. Because at times some of the employees are overworked and due to the shortage of staff in some of the areas. However, there are those employees, however little, but they are a significant number, who abuse and misuse leave. And they connive with doctors in doing all these things. It also is costly to the public service. So we also call on all those doctors who get used in sourcing leave from the public service to be wary of the fact that it's costly to the taxpayer and also it compromises service delivery.
So, Anele, when we see here an escalation, for example, from 2020 to 2022 of sick leave days or sick leave cost, that was 8 billion in 2020, in particularly 2020, because that was a strange year in South Africa anyway, ballooning to 11 billion in 2022. Are you saying there that a layer of that is malfeasance? A layer of that is people who are gaming the system and they are getting doctors to collude with them in order to get sick day leaves that they do not deserve? How much of the problem is that malfeasance vis-a-vis what you said about people just having really strenuous work schedules and work time and really becoming ill because they're overworked?
We can't attribute it entirely to malfeasance. Like I'm saying, it's a small number compared to the number of employees who are genuinely ill due to either having stress. Some of the employees have that stress at home and they carry it over to the workplace. And also in some service delivery departments, even the members of the public at times, how they treat employees, also it causes stress. You would understand that concept of the client is always right. So those are some of the challenges that are there.
All
now,
right.
What we advise as the Public Service Commission is that departments should try and find a way of properly managing leave in general, so that we can be able to isolate those areas. Ours as the Public Service Commission is to investigate, conduct research, come up with a report and recommendations, but the implementation thereof depends on the employer to ensure that they save the state money.
So, Claude, I'm going to bring you in here because, of course, the picture that Anele is painting is of a stressful work environment that is almost causing people to need to take sick leave. If that is the case, then the ballooning cost here is one that the state must bear, because the state is the employer, creating the kind of conditions where people are, so stressed, so strenuous. It's so strenuous for them that they are needing to take all of these days of sick leave. But again, it doesn't answer the question about whether there is malfeasance, and how do you know the difference between a genuine bona fide case where somebody needs, more sick leave than we've had before, and when there is actually gaming of the system.
Yes, a very good morning to you and everybody else. I think what we need to determine is that why has the sick leave escalated from the period that you mentioned itself. And one critical factor that we haven't mentioned is that those sick leave is significantly in those essential departments. We talk about the Department of Health, we talk about the Department of Police Services, and we talk about education, which is educators as well. Since 2017, public sector has not been employing more staff. In other words, there is a critical shortage of staff. You have one individual that's doing the job of 6 people. Eventually, mentally and physically, this person is going to get exhausted. That is the one issue. How do they then rest? Because the 2 days that's accorded during the week is just sufficient enough for people to rest, especially in the essential services department, because some of them work shift. Some of them do work on a Saturday and Sunday. I think what the findings of the Public Service Commission has not highlighted is the real reason for people actually taking sick leave. There's no doubt that some of them do abuse sick leave, but the sick leave conditions have drastically reduced in the public service, meaning they had quite a number of substantial amount of days, but that has been brought in line with the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, which other private sector employees enjoy. So there's no special difference between a public sector employee and those ones in the private sector itself.
So what we're dealing with here is a general problem across the public service of people who are genuinely just at a point where they are overworked, and this is causing people to not be well. That's where we are. All right, I want to bring in Milton from Hatfield, one of our callers, who also wants to give a view on this. Milton, welcome to Power Breakfast.
Hi, Sister Tessa, and also to the listeners. I also want to make a view that I don't think that this report by the PSC is a true reflection of the state of affairs on the ground. Because what you'll get as well, you'll get that some people's sick leaves will not be recorded because then of poor administration on the side of the HR departments within the public service. So you'll find someone coming to work, clocking in, and when it says 10 o'clock, they'll claim that they are sick, and then they'll be allowed to leave. And on the register, they'll be claimed that they are present. So I don't think that this thing is highly understated, because I'm sure that the cost, if proper administration were being done by the government, they'll find that there's a much more sinister issues when it comes to employees being not present at work. Because how much has been counted where people will come to work, and when it says 10 o'clock, they say they are sick and they're allowed to leave and not put in any leave. Because according to government policy, once it says 10 o'clock, you can be allowed to leave. And if you are at work before 10 o'clock, you'll be recorded as if you are present. But when you get to these offices, you don't even find the people, because some they're saying they've been left to sick. So do they also count that into their stats of those who left at 10 o'clock and were counted as if they are present?
And again, Milton, this is the reason why I think Anele and Claude, I've asked both of you this question in different ways. That it's hard for me to believe that we are ballooning at the rates that we are, purely on the basis that people are overworked and stressed out. I mean, I would probably have been more compelled if we spoke about the fact that COVID happened in that period, which I think might have been a contributor. But is there any, looking at the ways in which people may be gaming the system and the ways in which that might be contributing to the problem, that still feels like the missing question here, or the missing answer here, is how much of this is malfeasance?
Yeah, I think I can answer that for you. One of the reasons is that the gentleman quite rightly pointed out, general administration of sick leave is very poor, because if you had to abuse sick leave in the corporate environment, you was obviously disciplined or reprimanded. Nothing precludes that from happening in the public sector, because you have the same labor laws that govern these employees. One of the chief reasons that we've ascertained in our analysis is that they've called what is called temporary disability leave in the public service. That if you're involved in surgery, accident, where you have to take more than your allocated leave, an investigation needs to be done by the department to determine whether your condition is temporary or permanent.
Right.
Now, this is where the department fails, because the regulation very clearly says, or the policy very clearly says, that you need to investigate within 30 days and determine whether the sickness is one of long-term or short-term. Short-term, you make provisions. Long-term, then you decide whether an employee can do the job, and you take the necessary steps to determine whether he should still be in employment.
And
now, this is where the system fails us, because they have service providers that do not take 30 days, do not take 60 days, they do not take 90 days. Sometimes they take exorbitant amount of time just to investigate.
Sure.
So the amount that you're reflecting there of billions cannot be hundreds of thousands of employees, but there could be a select few employees that are staying with a considerable amount of period simply because the department haven't concluded the investigation.
Got you. I want to bring Bonga, also one of our callers, in from Olivedale.
Yes.
Bonga, you also have a contribution to this conversation as we wrap it up.
Morning, family, and happy birthday to Power.
Thank you so much, Bonga.
The part that I want to chip in on when it comes to this matter is the department is not taking care of their workers. Let me tell you that I started teaching at the age of 23. And then we used to work with older teachers. The strain that the department is giving them. And also, let me tell you now what is happening in KZN. One of my cousins is a principal. He has to take out his money to print papers for the children. It's training. It affects the family, but also he needs to make sure that there is productivity here. The department, when it comes to the abuses, I have never done a study, but everything that is done by teachers sometimes is not appreciated.
Gotcha.
And then while the pressure and strain, they are expected to perform wonders with limited resources, having 80-something children in one classroom.
Gotcha.
I'm talking about your Mtwaneni High School. I can give you names of schools at Enjabulweni Primary School and Tonjeni Primary School. I know this by hand. You can take journalists there. Those teachers are under strain.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for adding that dimension into that, Bonga, from Olivedale. And thank you as well to our guest, Claude Naicker from the PSA and Anele.
Is it possible that I can just make a short
Anele,
No, I just wanted to say that our research was not based on individual employees, but we took a number of days in general that are taken. That is why we would say, for instance, in terms of your sick leave, on average, it's 5 to 9 days per year that are taken for sick leave.
Yeah.
But also to expand on this issue of the employer failing to investigate these kinds of illness.
Exactly.
I think it's PSA is spot on.
Yeah. That was what Claude was raising.
Sit at home whilst the department is still investigating, and the department takes longer to investigate.
Thanks, Anele, for that one.
At home. Thank you very much.
And I think it is important for us to see both sides of the coin, because Bonga is saying there are some genuine concerns about people working in the public service who are, just worked to the bone, overworked and unappreciated. But then we also need to make sure that the departments are able to track this and make sure that there isn't an exploitation of the system. I think both sides are important. So thank you so much. There we had Claude Naicker from the PSA and Anele Gxoyiya from the Public Service Commission.